Mike Sierra 1 can't handle the truth.
You're a cheat and a swindler. That's what you are. How can you do a thing like this?
I am authorized to assure you these rumors are based on hysteria and are absolutely false. I repeat, these rumors are absolutely false.
Welcome back, and thank you for joining me once again as we take another look into the relentless lies of Mike Zeroh. Today I'm just going to be taking a look at various things Zeroh has spoken about over the years. But regardless of how much time has actually passed, he still holds on to the same people, saying the same things, about the same made-up scenarios. So let's use this as the first example. The most shocking leak in Star Wars history. Zeroh's clickbait video is based in truth, and this story comes from the novel, The Legends of Luke Skywalker, in which Luke takes down a Star Destroyer. Zeroh used this in a video dated the 29th of December 2022, but was it the most shocking leak in history? Well, no, because he used the same story for Episode 8, The Last Jedi, around 6 years earlier. But did this happen in Episode 8? No, of course not. But unperturbed by this, Zeroh decided that it was going to happen in Episode 9 instead, and once again he convinced anyone that wanted to listen, that this momentous demonstration of Luke's powers was going to happen in this film this time round, and again, it never did. So he came out with the same story again on the 8th of February 2022, making this the fourth time in all he has said that Luke, at some point, will crash a Star Destroyer into Jakku, albeit with the use of flashbacks now. As a compulsive liar, it's clear Zeroh takes no interest in who he talks about and in whatever way he sees fit. This has been demonstrated on numerous occasions over the years. But it's one thing to lie about people and put his words into their mouths. What I find even more callous is the fact he will not only use people who are not even associated with the Star Wars franchise, but he will even use an actor who passed away some 3 years earlier. Alan Rickman's image was used on a thumbnail for no good reason whatsoever. I'm not sure what went into the thinking behind this thumbnail, but to use Rickman in such a way goes well beyond bad taste. And if you thought that this might have been a one-off, you would be wrong. Again, I can't see the reason for it, but again, in my opinion, this was also in very bad taste. Here we have a picture of Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher and Mark Hamill. Sadly, we lost Carrie in 2016. She was without doubt one of the famous three aforementioned faces of Star Wars. It's hard to imagine the role of Leia being played by anyone else. But 6 years later, Zeroh decided that her memory needed to be treated with utter contempt, by photoshopping Finn Wolfhard's head onto her body instead of setting him to one side of the picture where he had placed a graphic representation of Carrie instead. Zeroh clearly has no moral backbone whatsoever and clearly doesn't care who he might upset by doing such a thing. To be honest, I did go off on a tangent with that last section, but I feel it really encapsulates the kind of person Zeroh really is. To use those much beloved stars in such a way is truly repugnant and should be frowned upon, but again he doesn't care, and if you tried to hold him to account, he would just block you anyway. So moving away from crass picture usage, we now return back to the lies that Zeroh is more prevalent in.
It's described that creator George Lucas has been in a deep conflict since the Gina Carano firing, and that Lucas is said to have an urge to want to fire actor Pedro Pascal, since he has been making heavy demands and requests for more screen time than what the story needs for The Mandalorian Season 3, and how his involvement with The Last of Us series is going to have an impact on production for the series.
Before The Mandalorian was aired in 2019, you never really heard about Pedro Pascal in such a bad light in Zeroh's videos, if at all. But after he dropped that bombshell on Twitter, that never saw him get fired in comparison to Gina Carano, Zeroh has made him public enemy number one, well at least second to Kathleen Kennedy. I'm not sure why it's down to George Lucas to be firing Pedro, as George isn't involved with Star Wars to that extent. Yes, he has visited the set of The Mandalorian and I dare say is used as a guide by John and Dave, but that's it. The main problem Pascal has, according to Zeroh in any video he puts him in, is that he is over-demanding in regards to his role as the Mandalorian. From time to time he has him calling out fans, but mostly it's about his diva antics. I'm sure at one point in time Pedro met or at least conversed about the character with writer Favreau. It would have been explained that the Mandalorian is forbidden to remove his helmet under any circumstances, but the point is Pedro would have known exactly what he was signing up for. Again, Zeroh took a rumor floating around the ether and turned into something far more nefarious.
We're getting Again, the whole big scene with him helmetless, finally. And then, of course, the scene itself is just so well written. But no diva behavior whatsoever. Absolutely 100% professional the whole time. Pedro is the lead. And, you get a lot of, sometimes you can get a lead be a little bit of a moody, difficult person, and he's the precise opposite of it. And Bill's just a really great guy.
That was a clip from an interview featuring Robert Brake, who played Valen Hess, an Imperial officer who questions the Mandalorian and Mayfield before asking them to join him for a drink in The Believer, Chapter 15, Series 2. Now you don't have to believe what Robert just said, but I'm more inclined to believe him over Zeroh, because it's actually happened and tangible, which is unlike anything Zeroh would actually produce to cement an argument when it's brought into question. Pedro himself dismissed the claims about his behavior, stating, "That is not true. Actually, it's a really wonderful way of telling the story." It's always been a very clear creed for the character. The collaborative process of the whole thing has been where we've all been on the same page with this. So what I want is for them to make the best show possible, however they get that done. And if you think that Pedro is just saying that to deflect the rumor as easily as he can, well, how about this article from Variety posted on October 15th, 2020? Jon Favreau is quoted as saying that Season 3 would start filming before the end of 2020 once Pascal returns from Europe, where he is shooting a film with Nicolas Cage titled The Unbearable Weight of Massive Talent. With Favreau reporting all is well before Season 2 even aired, and with Season 3 production being on track, it is safe to say that the rumors of Pascal falling out with producers is a bit far-fetched. As of right now, there have been no official reports of any problems from the set of The Mandalorian or of any issues between Pascal and producers. Zeroh is giving you these stories on the back end of a rumor started by Grace Randolph, but where most have stopped, Zeroh has kept on going, like he always does. In all honesty, this is a sweet gig for Pedro. He isn't always in the suit. He has John Wayne's grandson Brendan Wayne and Lateef Crowder, who are more often in the shots when it comes to the more action-driven sections of the script. Add to that Pascal does all the voiceover work as well as being in the armor as well. Why would you want to walk off the show?
However, currently Disney CEO Bob Iger recently got into big trouble with the Disney board members over a certain plan that he is chasing to actually complete that involves Kathleen Kennedy. Now, the current plan by Bob Iger that he is trying to stick with is by covering up that when he fired Kathleen Kennedy, or when he plans to, is that he wants to make it appear in headlines as if she is stepping down from the company, only to save the image of the company, to not show any signs of defeat. In addition to this, Bob Iger is also trying to put together an actual plan to provide Kathleen Kennedy extra amount of revenue in her severance deal that she signed, where an additional signature would grant her more revenue to leave a little bit earlier, around May of this year instead of August. But the Disney board members behind closed doors are extremely unhappy about Bob Iger even pursuing or thinking about this, of handing over tens of millions of dollars more to get her out by May of this year. So basically, Bob Iger, there's a reason why he wants to pose Kathleen Kennedy's firing as her stepping down or just quitting voluntarily in the headlines, is that they don't want to show any kind of sign of defeat or sign that they are failing, that they had to get rid of Kathleen Kennedy, that they had to make a correction.
The clip you have just listened to is about a plan of Bob Iger's to make it look as though Kathleen Kennedy will be stepping down earlier than August and will pay her more money to do so. This is because he wants to save face in some way, but he now faces the wrath of the Disney board and could well be fired for thinking, let alone doing such a thing. It comes from a video posted on the 14th of January 2023, and Zeroh, though you may not know it, is pulling the wool over your eyes again. Let's go back a couple of years to when Bob Chapek was in charge and what he wanted to do, and moreover what Kennedy wanted to do in regards to her leaving.
It's said that Chapek already has his lineup of candidates for the new president of Lucasfilm, and that even though Kathleen Kennedy is willing to leave Lucasfilm very soon, Chapek is described to have a plan to fire her very soon, later this year, that will go into full effect sometime next year. It's said that Kathleen Kennedy has known that this was coming and in the talks for a while now, and that her stepping down voluntarily was going to be her cover-up story as to why she was leaving Lucasfilm. Now, though Chapek is not firing Kennedy this instant, the plan is to let her go later this year in 2020. That will go into full effect sometime in 2021, with George Lucas taking over temporarily on the business end of things for the Star Wars franchise before Chapek chooses his permanent solution.
I let that clip play out a little longer than needed, only because it highlights something I brought up in a previous video about her being let go in 2020. This plan then goes into full effect in 2021, by which time George Lucas will be in charge, and it goes without saying that none of that happened. 2 years ago it would seem that Kennedy was happy to step down, and now that Iger is trying to put this idea through 2 years later, the faceless and nameless wonders that sit on the board won't let it go through. You would think that if she is causing all the chaos that Zeroh is resolute about, they would just turn around and just let her go, more so if she was happy to do it under Chapek's rule. The way they are working it is like me being told that I'm being fired from my job, but I can't go anywhere until they find my replacement. Personally, I want her to go, only because I want to see what will happen when at least 98% of Zeroh's content will be gone. I have a funny feeling that her going this year, if that happens, won't make a blind bit of difference to Zeroh, and he will continue to use her in his fables even more. Well, that's all I have for you today. I hope this has put a few things into a different light and made you think about the sort of things Zeroh is trying to make you believe. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you again soon.